Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of the YMCS training. Just wanted to quickly check if everyone can see the screen and can hear my voice. Okay, good. In this case, we will start. Today's agenda is, let me quickly bring up the presenter screen. Okay. I don't want to actually have this one inside there. Bear with me. I was on the other screen before. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, that is gone now. Okay, so then let's start. Today's agenda, we look into task management, alarm and diagnosis, statistics, managing sub-accounts, and then we have a quick look at integration, which is in the end nothing else than actually just showing where the link to the API is actually located. The most part of today's training session will be a pre-recorded videos where I give my comments on, but it will be mainly hands-on, more practical than actually going through the slides. Now, the task management is available for IP phones, rooms devices, and USB devices that are connected via USB Connect. Quickly hide that sharing screen here. IP phone and room device tasks are, amongst others, like um, all devices, site, group, and custom. So we can position them or we can execute them based on the structure that we have on the YMCS. You remember from the first training session that you can create sites, and then inside the sites again, you can then create subsites and groups and all these kind of things. And that's coming in then handy. You will see that then afterwards when you, for example, want to have certain devices restart or get firmware updates pushed or config files pushed to certain devices. We have executable tasks that can be reboot, reset to factory, send a message, auto update, do not disturb, cancel, do not disturb. You see, in that regard now, do not disturb, that is mainly for the IP phones. There's definitely some tasks that are not available for room devices. That is still also in a way growing as the room devices actually are growing in features that can be added based on the room system that is used. Originally, the whole platform was mainly there for IP phones, but that has now emerged over the last couple of years. We can generate configuration files, we can have config backups and restored. We can update the resource files, push global parameters, update the configuration, and update the firmware. We will definitely not go through all of those tasks. That would be definitely too much, but it's just giving you an understanding on what actually all can be done. USB devices have the tasks that can be executed immediately or planned and can be assigned to all devices, site or custom. Executable tasks are update the software, update firmware. Alarm and diagnostics is possible for IP phones and room devices. So alarm is possible for IP phones and room devices. And then there as well, you can configure the time frame on how long a device has to be offline until a alarm is, for example, sent out so that you know the device is actually offline. Diagnostics is possible for IP phones, room devices, and USB devices. Statistics are available for IP phones, room devices, and USB devices. This can be displayed by site. Statistics for IP phones and room devices that are available. We have device statistics, alarm statistics, and call statistics, so like call quality in that regard. Now, sub-accounts have the following roles available. We have super admin, device management admin, RPS admin, and then we have an empty permission where we can add stuff based on how we want it. New roles can be also created, and then also users can be added as sub-accounts. The integration is available under, we use the Australian server, again, based on the first training. Australia has a YMCS location, so where generally the data is stored, whatever kind of data is stored online. So that the link for the API would be au-api.ymcs.yealink.com. We will look at that then in the hands-on. Now that will be already the end of the slides, and now we have more or less a roughly 30 minutes, 32 minutes video that we are watching together. I have done a bit of speed up in between sometimes when we do install firmware updates and the phone has to reboot a couple of times, that kind of stuff. Then we have a fast forward. However, there is sometimes actions that I already prepare in the background. I will I will give my comments to that then as well while we are fast forwarding. Now, fast forwarding is not super fast, but it's just to save a little bit of time. Okay, so at the moment you see we work still with that phone that we have provisioned in the basic training on our 3CX system there. We are now going to do a couple of tasks. We see on the phone we have there the firmware version 86077. And what I'm going to simulate now is literally the way on how I would have to update the phone to a required firmware version. Under normal circumstances, in combination with a 3CX phone system, we would receive the phone with the latest official Yealink firmware. Back in the day when I made that recording, that is roughly 2-3 months ago, the last official firmware from 3CX from Yealink was the 0.70 ROM. So the customer would generally receive that phone with that firmware, and that's what we are going to push now. So you saw I uploaded that firmware. I upload now also the latest 3CX phone firmware there at that given time. I give it a firmware name. I enter the supported models there. You can add multiple models. As you might know, the supported phones from Yealink, they generally all use the same file. So the T5 series use the same file, the T4 series use the same file. So from that perspective, it is all in the end the same file. You only need one file for all these devices. I assign that then as well to the matching directory. Now, what we would do is, I just wanted to check there if the device is actually up. just to make sure that actually we know that the device is literally getting the information. Now, what we do is we add a task. We say choose YMCS training as the site. We say push firmware. Execution mode can be one time or can be every day, whatever. And then you see there, we can use all those tasks. Now, what we do here is we define the phone, and then we have to define custom version, although it would be actually an official version. And now we would actually do the firmware push. So that video was created mid or recorded mid-May. It's a couple of months old. Since then, there has been a new firmware released by Yealink, but back in the day, this has not been done. And the new firmware that was released by Yealink, that was mainly also to include the new YMCS link. So now in a moment you see that the phone is actually has received the push information. It was downloading the firmware. It is now booting up, coming up with the new firmware. I did that, as you see, I did that a little bit faster. That was sped up. Now we will go back into normal speed. I go there into the menu. I go there into the status. Unfortunately, you don't see it that well, but it actually reverted back to the firmware version that we pushed to it. Yeah, so which was literally the latest Yealink firmware. You can see then there the device is online. The execution details are handed over. So from that perspective, that was all correct. Now, what we do, and that would be something we would have to do in case if we receive an IP phone with an outdated firmware, we would have to push the last 3CX firmware. We always go with the latest 3CX firmware if we have a 3CX firmware. So we would push that firmware. Now, what I do in the background, I do a execution mode for firmware for factory reset to the device, just that it is in the end having an additional task that it does in the background. Now then, I also did a task to have the phone going to do not disturb. And I did that more or less on a daily level. You see that in there as well. You can even actually, I just did that as a fun kind of thing to show you more or less that this is all possible in that regard. You could actually send the phone every day on 5:30 p.m. You could send the phone to do not disturb, and then the next morning you could go to send it to um, cancel DND at, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock or what else ever. Yeah. So that's just something in regards of uh, fun. We will see the factory default then at some point in the back end, since we have the device still sitting on the RPS, the phone will factory default afterwards. You will see that it's setting to factory, and then it will come up again and get reprovisioned, since we still have the same provisioning information on the system as we did more or less the week before. Now, you see we have alarm settings there as well, with default settings that are already given. We can modify that compared with the site and all that stuff, so we can edit all these kind of things. Now, you see these events, they have not been enabled. We can enable them. You see there are critical ones that you can enable in terms of offline, poor call quality, and you see behind also the product quality, a product category that can be managed, or that is actually handled by all these devices there. So especially also there for decked phone, multi-cell decked phones. That's another training that's actually coming up in a couple of weeks. For multi-cell decked phones, we have quite a lot of uh, 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 events, alarm events that can come up there. You see the phone is meanwhile coming up from the factory default, and it's getting provisioned again there in the background. We see the 3CX a desktop picture has been already added. Now, in the alarm settings, you can then also manage the sites. For the diagnosis, we go now through the diagnosis because, again, we don't have to look into the back end of the phone while the phone is doing certain things. When you want to do diagnosis on the devices, you would have to add the MAC address, and then you can add additional MAC addresses. You can have multiple devices that you could want to diagnose. Now, with the IP phones, you see you can do reboot, reset to factory. You can update the firmware through their update configuration. You can do one-click export. You can do network detection, packet capture, all these kind of things. You can do that from remote. The screen capture would require the customer, so the device in the end, to accept the execution of a screen capture, and that's just for privacy restrictions. Now you see the phone is back up there, and we do a packet capture. Now, doing the packet capture on the phone, you will see afterwards that there is not that much coming up because it is a SBC phone, which means the whole traffic is encrypted. So from that perspective, you will see that we do that 2 times. There is no SIP traffic on there because it's encrypted, so it will not be recognized. If the phone is not an SBC phone, you will have the SIP traffic on it. Now, again, we have the packet capture then there that is running. We say finish because we did that call. You see there also on the phone, there is a missed call. We export the file, and then we can download that and have a look at it. Again, we go in here and we would look for SIP traffic. There's no SIP traffic. It's encrypted. Yeah. You then also will see in the packet capture history, when you don't delete the file, you will see in the packet capture history that there is a you can go through the former packet captures that were made there. And we do now here packet capture, simulate the packet capture of a call. The other one before was more or less just like a call that comes in. And then in this regard here, we would do a packet capture on a active call. We would download it, would open it. Again, while we're downloading it, we would have all the other tools that we can use on YMCS. We can export the config as a CSV, CFG or a bin file. Um, then we can also set a capture filter in that regard. So that is just the all information like the config file that is in the phone. The packet capture will be inside there, all that kind of stuff, so that we actually can send, when we are troubleshooting, that we can send real as much as possible information to Yealink to actually troubleshoot the issue. Now, when we look at the device statistics, we can see that we have one device there um, that is there, and then apparently it has been offline for a certain point. Um, but as it looks like, it has not been triggered by the alarm statistics, because we will see that then afterwards the alarm statistics is in the end was set to the to 15 minutes, but then again the alarm statistics that we had there was just showing the 19th, and it was out or offline on the 18th. Now here we have a overview on the call statistics. Um, that was the call that we made prior while we were taking the capture, and you can see the call quality was good. You would be able to have more information than there on the day, the hour, these kind of things, so you can really troubleshoot from remote using that tool. You see here the device, it was offline there. You see where it peaked, it was offline on the 18th. Yeah, but if we go into the alarm statistics there, that we were on the 19th in the alarm statistics. You see there is no room device is available there because I had not had a room device registered at that time. There are no active alarms for the last 7 days there. You could see that the device also here is online. It comes down to, you saw before when I enabled the alarming, that the alarm was disabled. Yeah. So the device was offline on the 18th, but the alarm itself was disabled. So there is no alarm triggered. Yeah. So you have to enable the alarm depending on, based on what you want, and then you literally can trigger alarms. Now here on the accounts, we can add, for example, Skype for business accounts. We can also add normal SIP accounts when, for example, your PBX has not the same feature as a 3CX with provisioning link, where the phone is actually getting the provisioning information from the uh, server, where you actually have to bind it to an account. This can all be done here on the back end. So you would there, instead of going to provision the system using RPS with the link to 3CX, you would literally take the account registration information. So what we do now here. It's always a thing with 3CX because we have the author ID, we have the extension number, and we have the password. And it always comes down what is now the what is now the matching? Is the username, is that the auth ID or is that the extension number? What? Also here doesn't help you if you want to use any form of trying to access any information that 3CX system has since ages been um, uh, uh, deployed freshly with, of course, all new information. So now we would have the server address there, we would have the username, we would have the password, and we would have the register name there. So the register name on the normal circumstances for the 3CX is the auth ID, and the username would be there in that regard, the extension number. So now what we have the information for that account, but that account is not bound yet to any device. You saw that just now. So what we would have to do, we will go into the phone, and then we would literally not go there. No, we would go to, we wouldn't also go there. No, it's not the right section. We would go into right-hand side there under edit, and then we would say bind account. And then we would take that profile and click on it. Of course, it is already bound now to that via auto provisioning. So I didn't execute that, but that would be how you can then bind the phone to these accounts. And then when the phone gets rebooted, it will apply the account. You can, of course, then there add accounts for sub-accounts and whatever kind of stuff. You can group them. Now, we can also do custom templates for the devices. You can say it's a room device or it's a phone device, and then again you can choose the device you want. You can choose the site, and then literally you can create the config, and then you more or less can work through the config file. And that config file then, in that regard here, can be pushed to all devices with that model on that site. Yeah, so you will have the opportunity there then to push configuration based on the sites. You also see in the top right, we have the GUI editor enabled at the moment. There is also a text editor. Register, that would then just go in under the account. Of course, you would only have the settings. The account itself is under accounts. But you see already you have all features that you have on the web GUI of the phone, you have already there. And you can template then per site, per model, the devices. And then you can assign that to the specific devices. Then you see under account, we had 4 changes. We don't want them. Then we reset them because I don't want to save anything in that regard. But yeah, that's the opportunity to create templates, and then you can push them. You can push them immediately. You can schedule that kind of stuff. Yeah. Now you see the device is offline at the moment, but the device has not been triggered an alert. And you see there is offline is inside the content. And then when we go offline, you can trigger the time. You see, at the moment it's 15 minutes, so the device has been offline for less than 15 minutes. So from that perspective, there has no alert being triggered because the device has not been offline for such a long time. Yeah. Again, the device has been offline there on a day before, but there has no offline alert been enabled that would have triggered that the uh, device is out. Okay. Now, what we also can add there are different resources like screensaver, music on hold, other kind of things that can be added in there. Then we give it a name, and then we would actually upload the file. And now you would then see that I change um, that I then at some point afterwards change the background folder. Now in the room devices, we can also add the rooms based on the branch, the building, the floor, and all that stuff. In the USB devices like headsets, you have all the devices available that you can choose. You have also there the firmware that you can push, the tasks. Under the RPS server, you have the information about the devices that are bound, the servers that you have. You have, you see here, I have 1 out of 1,000 free devices added. You see your information. With the workspace management, you can have a hierarchical location history based on where which workspace is. We have allowed IP lists. We can also then add single sign-on that users can use the third-party platform account for single sign-on. Here we would have the API integration link. We would have the roles then there, sub-accounts that you can add. Then you can also enable login protection, for example, MFA verification. That can be tricky. I came across that sometimes people who have Google accounts or so all of a sudden don't get the MFA. I was going there to see if the alert was triggered, but it was not enough time yet since I changed the uh, since I changed the time, the alert time. So I'm starting the phone there again now, then to be able to actually push that background picture out so that you can see how that is actually done. But again, if I would have waited a couple of minutes more, uh, we would have seen that the alert is going through. You see the phone comes up now, it's registered. Then we go over and say push now. You see, we save that and it's executed. At some point you will see that the phone in the background does now download the picture. Unfortunately, there is, as of now, or when that video was done, there was no opportunity to say, for example, to push the firmware as soon as the device is registered. Yeah, which in a way would be useful for these certain firmware updates when the phone requires a firmware update, the latest firmware update, in order to register properly, for example, with the phone system. So that was back in when that video was done, was not available. I'm not sure, I haven't looked into that if that is available now.